Webster defines surrender as the yielding of something to the power of another person or entity. When we think of surrender, many images come to mind. We think of Napoleon, who had to surrender in defeat at Waterloo. Perhaps we think of Robert E. Lee surrendering on the battlefield at the end of the Civil War at Appomattox. Maybe you envision Japan surrendering to the United States at the end of World War II, or maybe you simply envision a white flag being waved in surrender and begging for mercy or grace. All of these are images of surrender, and someone has to give in and give up in defeat. After the Last Supper with his disciples, and just moments before his betrayal, Jesus knelt in the garden. He communed with his Father, and it was clear that he still had a choice, and he was aware of the cross that he would bear and the burden that he would bear for all of humanity. In that moment, he prayed with his Father. He said, "If it be your will, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but yours be done." That was a prayer of surrender. It was a prayer of surrender to the will of God, and he was surrendering. But that was not an act of defeat. No, it was an act of victory. That was a prayer of surrender. It was a prayer of surrender to the will of God, his Father. However, it was not a surrender of defeat. It was a surrender with victory. Victory over Satan. Victory for you and for me. He was providing victory for eternity. Loved ones, we are in a spiritual war. We're engaged in spiritual warfare. And when we surrender to the will of God, it is not an act of defeat. Rather, it is the greatest act of victory we will ever experience.